Well, for more on what's happening now in London, let's speak to our correspondent in the UK, Vincent McAvenny, who joins us live. Vincent, this is an extraordinary case. We can see those people gathered just behind you outside the Supreme Court. Talk us through the timetable for the next few days and what we can expect to happen.
Good afternoon, folks. Well, as you mentioned, yes, this is the UK Supreme Court, the highest court in the land. As ever here in Westminster, we've got both Leave and Remain protesters being kept apart by police. And there is, of course, lots of international media here because this is going to be a dramatic 3 days in this court. Probably one of the busiest and most watched cases that they have ever had. There are all 11 judges sitting, which is unusual for a case like this. This is how delicate the arguments are. We could get some of those judges in dissenting opinions. But right at the top of this case, which started a short while ago, the President of the Court, the most high judge in the United Kingdom, Brenda Hale, had this to say about what they were about to hear.
It is important to emphasise that we are not concerned with the wider political issues which form the context for this legal issue. As will be apparent when we hear the legal arguments, the determination of this legal issue will not determine when and how the United Kingdom leaves the European Union.
Vinny, it's worth reminding our audience that the UK has no written constitution, so these judges wield considerable power in the country. If they find that suspending Parliament was unlawful, what happens next? Will MPs have to come back to Parliament, and what will that mean for Boris Johnson?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned there, the UK is one of the few countries in the world, I think it's just us and Israel, that doesn't have a written constitution. And it was always said that this was better. It gave the UK flexibility. But it really has been tested to the limits over the past couple of years. And the decision here that these judges are trying to make, they're trying to make very clear there in those remarks that it's not a case about Brexit, but about procedurally what Boris Johnson did, whether they believe, as the Scottish court said last week, that he had misled the Queen, tried to restrict Parliament, which is just opposite the way here, and imposing scrutiny on the Prime Minister's Brexit plans. And so they will look at this over the next few days. Gina Miller's lawyers will start the submissions around now. And then as well, we're treated to the fact that the former Conservative Prime Minister, Sir John Major, will come and give oral evidence on Thursday here, which is quite remarkable, a former Conservative Prime Minister giving evidence in a case against a current one. And what this will do and why it's so significant is it could really change the balance. It could bring the Supreme Court as a bigger checks and balances process in political decision-making in the UK. It would be incredibly embarrassing for Boris Johnson if he lost here in this case. And I think what the judges are trying to carefully do is make sure that they're not being politicised, because the judiciary has frequently been politicised over the past couple of years. In Gina Miller's previous case, the judges in that case were called saboteurs on the front of a newspaper. They're just trying to say this is just about procedure, whether the Prime Minister was right in how he managed to prorogue Parliament or not on Brexit itself. And if he loses, then MPs may well be able to get Parliament back a couple of days earlier, and they might be able to inflict more defeats on Prime Minister Boris Johnson and get more information out of his government.